my name is Nur Afni Audya Putri. I'm a student majoring in English education from STIT Muhammadiyah, Tanjung, Redeb. In this video, I will review a novel that I have finished reading. This book is entitled The Secret Garden. This book was written by Frances Hudson Burnett and published by the Magic Wagon Company in 2011 in Minnesota. This book has 112 pages. I made this video review to fulfill the extensive reading final exam. Okay, let's get into the review session. The story begins with a little girl named Mary. Her body so skinny and her appearance very shabby. It made her mother hate to see her. Her mother asked the maid to take care of Mary. Since then, Mary's mother never saw Mary again. One day, Mary's father and mother died of a plague. The surviving maid has escaped. So, Mary was really left alone. After that, Mary was then raised by a priest for a while. The priest then sent Mary to England to be raised by Mary's uncle. When she arrived in England, Mary was awaited by Medlock, Mary's uncle's nanny. Before arriving at Uncle Mary's house, Medlock told Mary to not roam in her uncle's house. Mary was only allowed to be in the bedroom and in the garden. However, Medlock said that there was one garden that was locked and no one had been there since 10 years ago. And the key to the garden door had been buried by Mary's uncle since his wife died. Mary was interested in the garden. The first morning, Mary saw Martha, a young maid cleaning Mary's room. They got to know each other and started talking. Mary is interested in Martha's story about Deacon, Martha's brother. After finishing talking, Martha asked Mary to have breakfast and then play in the garden. While in the garden, Mary meets Ben, the old gardener. After their talk, Mary went to another garden and met Robin, a little red-breasted bird perched on the garden wall. Ben then came over to them. Mary then asked how to get through the garden wall if there was no door. Ben said there was no door to be found and told Mary to stay away and go play in another garden. Mary realized that it was the secret garden that Medlock had told her about. One night, while Mary and Martha were talking, Mary heard the boys cry from the corridor. But Martha emphatically said it was just the sound of the wind and then walked away. A few days later, while Mary was playing in the garden, Mary heard the sound of birds chirping and approached the sound. Turns out it was a tweet from Robin. And there, Mary saw a dog that was digging the ground. Mary then looked into the dig and found an old key. And it turned out to be the key to the secret garden. However, Mary didn't know how to use the key because there was no door there, except for the garden wall, which was covered with ivy hanging very thickly. The next day, Mary came over to Robin, who was hanging from the thick ivy. Mary asked Robin to show where the door was. Robin instantly flew and made the ivy plant that it had been sitting on swinging. Then, the wind came, making the ivy plant that Robin was living in swaying even stronger. That's when Mary saw a doorknob covered in ivy. Mary finally found the door to the secret garden. Then, Mary opened the door with the key she got and the door opened. Mary entered through the door before anyone noticed. Finally, Mary has found the secret garden told by Medlock. Over the next few days, Mary made more frequent visits to the secret garden without anyone knowing. She repaired the garden herself. One day, Mary asked Martha to buy her some planting equipment, but Mary didn't tell her about the secret garden. Martha then asked Deacon to buy what Mary asked for and asked Deacon to deliver it to Mary himself. The next day, at the back garden gate, Mary saw Deacon already, accompanied by his animal friends. Mary then took Deacon and the animals to the secret garden. Then, Mary shared the secret and repaired the garden with Deacon. One night, Mary was called by her uncle. Her uncle asked what Mary needed. Mary asked for a little land to plant, and Uncle Mary would give him land. Mary's uncle did not suspect Mary, and her uncle had given Mary permission to be roam at home. One night, Mary wept both tears again. This time, Mary found the direction of the crying and stopped right in front of a room. Mary opened the door to the room and saw a boy was crying. The boy turns out to be Colin, the son of Mary's uncle. Colin was sick because he never wanted to leave his room. He was ashamed of having a hunchback and having bumps. That was the reason why Mary's uncle didn't want to see Colin. Mary and Colin became friends. Mary also shared stories about Deacon, but Mary didn't tell about the secret garden that she found. When the next night, Mary heard the cry of Colin again. Mary was angry. She didn't like her Colin shouting like that. Mary also approached Colin and scolded Colin. Then Mary showed that Colin's body was not a slouch. Actually, Colin's body is thick. It's just that because Colin never had other activities, his body became unhealthy and became weak. Mary also said that the bump was a bone that appeared because Colin's body was very thin. Finally, Mary told Colin about the secret garden, and Mary decided to take Colin to the secret garden to get some fresh air. A few days after that, with the help of Deacon, Mary took Colin to the secret garden. Colin dismisses all the gardeners, including Ben, so no one knows what they are about to do. Since then, Mary, Deacon, and Colin spend their time in the garden together. Colin's body becomes healthier and stronger. Finally, Colin could stand up and run around like a normal child. A few days later, Colin's father came home from a long trip. Suddenly, Colin's father is looking for Colin. The servants said that Colin was in the garden with Mary and Deacon. Colin's father then headed to the garden looking for them. When he was in front of the door of his wife's favorite garden, he heard laughter from inside and then opened the door. He saw that there was a boy he didn't know about, Mary, Deacon, and Ben, that turned out to be private to the garden. Seeing his father coming, Colin immediately approached his father. His father was very surprised when he found out that the boy was his son. He was surprised to see that Colin was able to run like a normal child. Then, Colin's father took them into the house. The servants were very surprised to see Colin's current condition, because all this time, Colin had kept his condition a secret. Colin walked with his head held high and strong like a typical child in Yorkshire. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy my video. See you!